butter.
And what did we do while our apples were cooling?
We went on a bike ride, and my mom got super aggravated that while we were getting my helmet, one of her bike tires like exploded. So now we gotta get it repaired.
Yep. So we're back in the house making pie.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we are going to need, what you guys have is a plain pastry crust recipe. I'll have this posted for you. And this is going to make, for a full recipe makes 2 crusts. Now you can make just one by cutting the ingredients in half. And I showed a video on our Schoology page that had that. So you need to work with ingredients. You need a really cold fat. So I am going to cut this cold butter that is straight from the fridge into some smaller pieces to use.
And I would just like to say this pie plate has like really pretty decorations, and this is the one that we're going to be using. So I'm excited to make this pie crust.
It's going to be fun. All right. So basically what we're going to do is cut this butter up. Now you could use another solid fat that you could use would be Crisco shortening. I highly recommend that if you're going to use shortening that I would put it in the fridge. Or you could use a mixture of butter and shortening. It's kind of up to you. I like an all butter crust. I think that for sweet pies that are going to go in the in the dessert area, a buttery crust really complements sweet dessert pies.
Yeah, like when we're talking about chicken pot pies, then maybe we're doing one of those, which I do not like. I do not like chicken pot pies.
You're crazy. Okay, so what we want to do is get our dry ingredients measured into our bowl. So we're going to start with our all-purpose flour.
All-purpose flour.
Now for me, I am going to make 2 pie crusts, so I'm going to make a full recipe. But you guys would just need 1 1/4 cup of flour to make a 1 crust pie.
Wait, we're making 2 pies?
No. We're going to make a top crust, but you could just make a single crust pie.
Yeah, and you can do like maybe a crust topping, like a little...
A crumble topping?
Yes.
All
Oh
right.
yeah, rolling pin.
Okay, so I've got my flour, and then I'm also going to grab, you guys know that Miss V likes to have finger flour, because I never stick my hand in my flour bin. That would be unsanitary. So I have some of that flour set aside for when I need to flour my surface or my rolling pin.
And I'm probably not going to be able to help with that.
All right, so then we also have 2 tablespoons of sugar. For you guys, this would be 1 tablespoon of sugar if you're going to make a 1 crust pie.
I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy.
All right. Okay, there's our 2 tablespoons of sugar.
Oh.
And you guys would need a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to be using 1/2 teaspoon of salt. What did I do with my salt? Oh, it's over here.
Yeah.
All right, and I've got my salt in here, and I'll just give these a mix. So now what I'm using here is a pastry blender. If you remember from Culinary 1, we use these to make biscuits. We use them, a couple different times, and you don't have to have this tool at home to do this. There was another video that I posted in our Schoology group where a lady just did this with her fingers. You could do that. You could use 2 butter knives, crisscross them. You saw that in Miss Wilkins' video if you watched those, and you could just do that as well, and it would work also. You could use a fork. So there's a lot of ways that you can do this. But basically, in order to make a pastry crust, we need our fat to be cut into the dry ingredients, and we need it to be cut in so that it'll make all those wonderful flaky layers. So I got all this butter going in.
Mind if I crush that up?
You can crush up a little bit, and then I'll take over.
Crush. Look at that. Like it's.
Move it over here more, and they'll be able to see.
Like you want to really get into there and crush it. Like, will you hold the bowl?
Sure.
Like, and you might even kind of want to mix the butter in, but you want to really crush it.
Audrey, what grade are you in?
First.
First grade? Do they teach culinary at your school?
No.
No.
My mom's my culinary teacher.
That's right.
Give a thumbs up to this video. Please subscribe because my mom is the best person in culinary in the world.
Is that so?
Yes, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Now, you might discover that you've got to clean your knives or your fork.
Or whatever you're using
or your pastry blender a couple times because the butter kind of gets all up in there.
There's a lot of butter.
That's okay. That's going to happen. And what we're looking for is for this butter to look kind of like it's all in smaller, more uniform pea-sized chunks before we start adding any ice water to this. We will be using ice water, and so what we're going to do is I have some ice water ready to go. You want that water to be very cold.
Yeah, like we even put some ice cubes in it.
That's right.
Like that's how cold you want it to be. Like ice cube cold.
Okay. Your hands have natural warmth. And the more that you're manipulating this with your hands, the more that warmth is going to start softening up this butter. And we don't want there to be too soft of butter.
Yeah. Because otherwise it'll get like this creamy texture and we don't really want that.
It'll get greasy.
Yeah, too.
And that would be a problem. Okay, so I've got some buttery chunks going in my dough. And so now I need this to like form a dough basically. And so what I want to do is I'm going to be adding in my water with a tablespoon.
Okay.
And I'm going to grab really quick.
So you don't just like kind of like pour it very slowly into the thing. You actually have to.
No, what I'm going to do is actually kind of dip in. And I'm going to start with what the recipe tells me.
That's looking good on the camera.
So I'm going to start with what the recipe tells me, but I also need my pastry dough to kind of tell me when it's ready to go, okay? And so what that means is I am going to mix that water in and get this to come together as a dough. And if it's drier in your house or the air is drier, it might take a little more water. So I'm just going to go ahead and see, okay, this is really crumbly still, so I'm going to add some more.
And Mom, when you roll this out, are you gonna like do the thing where when we watched the video, she put powder on there and then she rolled out for a little bit, flipped it over, put more powder on top, and then did it?
I think that's a great way to do it. So I think that is how we'll do it.
Okay. And I want to do the rolling because it's kind of like Play-Doh. You know how you get the little like toy thing and then just roll it out.
All right, so I've got a little bit more water that I'm going to add.
Looking good. Just crumbly and weird.
It is. It's crumbly. It's going to start coming together.
Yeah.
The dough is starting to form.
Yeah.
Starting to get some dough here.
Yeah, it's kind of crumbly still, but it still
coming
looks
together.
like some dough.
So it's definitely not as dry in appearance, and so I am ready to start taking this out of the bowl. So before I do that, I need to prepare my surface.
So
Audrey, give me a second.
So we're gonna put some flour on our.
I'm actually going to go ahead and use this silicone mat just because it gives us a really nice surface to work with. And I'm going to go ahead and flour our surface.
Should I like roll it out?
No. First we're going to flour our surface. And I'm going to go ahead and get this dough about dump this out here.
And then are you kind of gonna like put it all into one bunch, or?
I am, and then I'm actually going to separate it. So you'll see. So what I'm going to do is get this to come together into an actual section of dough that I can work with. But again, I don't want to overdo it so much that I start melting that butter and making this messy. You need to bring that over to the sink because we have to wash it because it's on the floor. If you made the one crust recipe, your dough looks about this size, okay? And what we're gonna do is, can I have the rolling pin, please? Okay, just like the lady in the other video said, we're gonna roll, turn, roll, turn, roll, turn, because if we keep going like this, what's going to happen is we're going to create a divot in the dough and it's going to be thick on the ends. It's going to be hard to equal and flatten that out. Now, what's nice about this silicone mat is it shows me about the size of circle that I'm trying to create. Okay, so
at some point, Mom, can I try rolling that out?
Sure. So just you're going to gently go this way.
So should I hold on to the handle?
Sure. Just like a gentle pressure all the way. There you go. And then we'll turn it. And you can do that again. Okay, and we'll turn. So we're gonna bring our pie plate close.
It has like the texture and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna.
So what we want to do is we're going to actually use our rolling pin as our transferring tool. Okay, a little bit, and you want to be careful that your dough, if it's sticking a little bit, you're being super careful. Oops.
Oh, great.
That's okay. It happens.
It's just that rolling pin thing was so loose that it was like, okay, no more.
All right, so you've got your pastry crust in here.
As you can see, we have a couple of holes.
Mm-hmm. And so we're gonna pinch those shut. Okay, hold on, Audrey, let me help you. You wanna bring, because I don't want you to make it too thin. Okay, now start pinching that together. So now that we got some of that in there. Now I'm using a glass pie plate, but you could use a metal pie plate. You could use one of those pie plates that's like a colorful stoneware type one.
You can use basically any kind of pie plate.
Mm-hmm. So what you're going to be doing is, the advantage of using glass though, is when you're trying to judge if the pie is done and you're trying to see if the crust has browned within it, that is how you can see if your crust is getting done. So around the edges, we're going to be tucking this.
Yeah, like see how I kind of did it over here, and then I'm going to try to connect this. So, there. And then I think we're going to do like the pinching thing. Right?
Right, it's called fluting.
Make it more attractive.
Okay, can you be patient and let me show it first? Who's the teacher here, you or me?
You, I guess.
Me, I guess? I mean, do you know how to make pie?
No.
Okay.
This is kind of thin over here.
That's okay. It's not going to be perfect the whole way around, and that's okay. All right, this isn't a factory, this is homemade. So you're not going to have absolutely perfect edges. It's just not gonna happen. So what I'm doing first is just sort of
like making it like thinner.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of like taking it and seeing if there's any spots that are like super thick that I can maybe improve a little bit.
And trying to make some of them maybe like a little bit taller so then it's kind of easier.
Right, so there's some spots where maybe the pie crust is a little short. So I'm just making sure that it all went in. Oh, here we go. If you have a little extra crust, you can use that as a patch.
Yeah, to like help the edges grow.
Yeah, if you had one side that was like a little bit short. Okay, so now when you flute, you have a couple options here. You could take a fork and go the whole way around and press the edges of your pie, and that would make like a decorative edge that you could use. The other thing you can do is you can flute, and that's where you're gonna take 2 fingers, okay, and then you have one other finger, and you're gonna go through.
Can I try?
So come here, Audrey, what you're gonna do, and what, okay, so hold on. This finger is gonna go in this bump, and then that finger makes the next bump, and you're kind of pinching and going like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but mine didn't really look good.
Well, it's okay, because your fingers are small, and let's see if we can.
I'm terrible at it.
I'm terrible at this too. This is not my most amazing talent.
Just ruin the crust over here.
Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and leave this because we are going to be making a top crust. We can do our fluting when we tuck the top crust.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys can kind of see how a flute would start, and you saw that in that other video. But this one, what we're going to do is let this sit because we're actually going to have a top crust that goes over, and we have to flute it then. But you guys, there are some options. So let's think about what could you do to fill this pie at this point. Well, you could blind bake this pie, which means that you can bake this crust in the oven and then fill it with a cool creamy ingredient like a chocolate pudding or a banana cream. You can look up any Google recipe that you would want to do that.
Maybe like that banana pudding that's super good that I had in my preschool.
Yeah, so there's also, I have a homemade pudding recipe on our, that I made a video for my Culinary 1 students. You could use that recipe to make a chocolate cream filling for this. You could also do a fruit filling. For me, I'm going to do apples. For you, you could use a frozen fruit. You could use a canned fruit filling. So you can buy cans of like cherry pie filling, apple pie filling, pumpkin pie filling. There's a lot of options out there. So once you have your pie crust ready, you can then decide what you're going to do next.